Hello and welcome. My name is Melissa, but if you are one of my sterling subscribers and you've been following along, then you already know that you can call me Missy. Today I am working with metal and I am going to be trying to make a piece of jewelry that I found on Pinterest. I will put a picture here now. I think it's really cool. I think it's really fun. Instead of the pearl though, I'm going to use a small human tooth. Hello class and welcome to Jewelry Making 101. Today we are going to be making jewelry to commemorate our beloved ones. And as part of your homework, each of you came up with an idea for how you would like to make such jewelry. And I thought that to start today's class, each of you should share your ideas. Elizabeth, why don't we start with you? I have made a teensy painting of my lover's eye. I shall put it behind glass and then upon a necklace and wear it close to my heart so that I may remember him always. Lovely idea, Elizabeth. And now who should share next? Hester, yes, tell us your idea. I have a lock of hair from my dearly departed husband, Harold. His hair? Yes. I shall arrange it so that it appears as the flowers he loved in life. Put it behind glass and wear it close to my heart. Ah, what a sweet idea, Hester. Thank you for sharing. All right, Felicia, that just leaves you. Teeth. I beg your pardon? I've got a vial of children's teeth. I'm gonna encase them in metal, put them on a chain and wear them close to my stomach so I can always remember the children I've eaten. Beaten. The sweet little children who've touched me life. Right. Okay then. Let's get to work. So before I can get started, I need to use some paper to make sure that I have some kind of a template that will be the right proportions for the tooth. So let's get started with that. This would be good for like a ring. I think this tooth was the one I had tried originally, and I still feel like it's a nice shape. That's the tooth. That might be too wide because I only have this width. Further limitations I haven't accounted for yet. That might be even a bit big. Well, let's cut it out and see. So that's basically what we're going to do. I feel like that's good. It can probably be smaller. I feel like smaller would be more dainty and nice. If you are remembering the inspiration that I showed you at the beginning of this video, and then looking at these paper iterations that I'm making, you may think that, dang, what she's making looks quite a lot like the Muppet version of those birds. And you would be right. But at this point in the process, I was not looking at the references that I had. I feel like the head needs to flare out more. So I confidently made several more paper Muppet birds. And I was thinking I was really getting somewhere. Just listen to that singing. I got the horse right here. His name is Paul Revere. I was so confident. Can do something the horse can do. Because I had come up with an idea, and I had built this bird several times in my head. And in my head, it worked great. The shapes were all right.
And all I needed was the right proportions, but I was just being so silly thinking that I could get the right proportions without looking at a reference. But I was wrong about that. I don't know, I feel like it's still pretty big and chunky though. Clunky chunky. Okay, let's make it a bit smaller. Anyways, I got this to the point where I was thinking, good enough. And I went ahead and traced it out on my metal, cut it out of my metal. This is sterling silver, by the way. It's not cheap. But I moved forward with so much confidence in what I had done. And now, sometimes confidence is a really good thing. In fact, for me, usually confidence works out all right. But you know what? Sometimes pride cometh before the fall. Am I laying it on too thick with the foreshadowing? Maybe I am. Maybe it's not even foreshadowing anymore. Maybe at this point, it's just me spoiling what happens. Let me know what you think. If you would rather discover my failures organically and not have them pointed out by me in the voiceover, just go ahead and write spoilers in the comments. Day 2, I'm about to show you what I achieved on day 1. But before I do that, I'm going to say that I had a moment yesterday where I realized that I hadn't actually looked at my, what do you call it? I had a moment where I looked at my reference photo for what I was trying to create. I don't spend a lot of time making images of birds, so I'm not super duper uber familiar with the shapes of birds. And I was looking at this thing that I made and I was saying to myself, Self, you have made caveman bird. It looks like a bird. Yes. But it looked like bird created by Cave Missy. You can see I already had some thoughts about what I could do to improve this bird because that would be best. This is a good chunk of silver and silver is not cheap. And I also, using my reference photo, created a new template for what I could make if I decided that I absolutely must start over. So, all that being said, I have more bird to make. Me make better bird. Maybe enter Bronze Age. I don't know if I'm gonna fix this. We'll see. Let's get into it. Oh, I need music. Ah.
But oh, it was the banshee that was crying, crying, crying. And I knew my love was dying far across the sea.
Forgot to plug in my pickle pot. There it goes.
So my thought here was that I could just cut into the metal in order to reshape it. This was a lot more difficult by the fact that I had already turned it into this kind of dome shape. But I gave it my best, and then I heated up the metal so that it would be easier to reshape. I don't think that actually heating up before trying to shape it was all that helpful in this particular case. I'm honestly mostly trying to remember processes that I learned like 10 years ago. I did look up some refreshers on YouTube, but mostly for the soldering and things. I know I've done a lot of criticizing myself up until this point, but I do think I did a pretty good job at reshaping this thing to make it look much better, much more bird-like. The extended beak that I had in order to attach the tooth to it ended up falling off, so I had to solder some wire to it. And in preparation for that soldering, I ended up having to put it back in the pickle.
Off you go, all the way in the birdie boiler. Not the birdie boiler, ah! So last time I attempted this, I had a bezel that went around just this end
of the tooth, but this time I'm wondering, what if I had it go around the tooth in this way? And that might be preferable. So I think I'm going to try and do it this way. Yeah. So as you can see, while I waited for my bird to pickle, I went ahead and got to work on getting a bezel set for that tooth. I cut my bezel wire to the correct length, and then I sanded down the edges because my cutting method pinches the edges so that they don't fit together quite so cleanly. Welcome to day 4 of working on this project. I would like to take the opportunity right now to apologize to all of you for my atrocious framing and filming throughout this video so far. It is one thing for me to film some of my larger projects, but it's another thing entirely for me filming something on this little tiny scale and trying to make sure that everything is still in the frame. The moment you move this little guy, he's off the frame. I do apologize. Hopefully you can stick with me. I would like to do more of these in the future, but I gotta get better at it. I do admit that. Additionally, my metal is looking so beat up. Hopefully I can fix some of that as I go ahead and carve into it all of the details of feathers and things, which I'm going to try and do with my Dremel. Today, the first thing that I need to do though is add a little something on the back side of the little beak there that I can then loop onto this little thing, which is the little bezel that's going to be holding the tooth. I can put oops, dropped it. Drop everything. I'm not gonna put it all the way in right now because it's pretty fiddly and difficult to do, which is good because it means that hopefully it will hug the tooth nice and tightly and keep it in there. You can see it's gonna kind of wrap around the tooth. So with that being said, I've got to get to work. So let's get to work. All right, here I go muddling this up. Now this is an old case where most of the drill bits were broken by yours truly. These are all the same size. They're pretty small. It is quite a bit thicker than my wire, but that's what I got. So I guess I'm just gonna use it. Oh, I got it through. I'm really trying to learn to start like cleaning up as I go because waiting till everything's over, not the best way. So what I'm gonna try and do is flux it up. Flux, flux, flux it up. And then when I burn it, it'll ball up. So get it. Flux. Put it on there. In case you were wondering, flux is a material that you put on your metal which makes it flow. It's a little bit of a ball on there. It's hard to see. Let's see if it'll work. Okay, and then I'll want it. Ah, it just came out. Uh-oh. Maybe I can just hammer it flat and that will help. So. Up to about here is where I'll want to cut it off. Next, I had to solder that little bit of wire on the inside of the beak, as I had talked about previously. And that meant having to set everything up so that it could be soldered and make sure that there was solder there and everything had flux on it. And this whole process of getting everything put together was such a pain. The best part of the whole process was what just happened there, which is when I quenched the metal. Something about that hissing noise when you quench the metal is so satisfying to my ears. That hiss of the water. I don't know. I just like it. That's all. But yeah, since my first attempt was unsuccessful, I had to try and reposition everything yet again. What finally ended up working was that I had melted a bunch of solder onto the beak portion already. And then what I did was just add a little bit more flux, get that solder going, and then attach the wire to that.
Oh, it worked. Okay, cool. Good, good, good. Okay.
I wasn't even excited to get that done. I was just relieved I was finally able to make it work. But then I needed to add some markings to make it look more like wings with feathers and all that good stuff. Now that I have all of my design markings on here, it's time for me to don some safety goggles and get cracking. Good morning, day 4. I come to you in the clothes I slept in, not having even brushed my hair because I am impatient. But before I get into that, it would make more sense if I explain what I did last night off camera. My camera died just as I was about to start carving, etching, hand marring the metal in order to make it look like feathers and stuff on the wings of my little bird. I ended up using this attachment on the Dremel after trying a couple things. The tips on these, I don't think it was designed for metal at all. I think it would have been better if I had gone and purchased new metal Dremel bits that were designed for this sort of thing. It worked. I didn't have the best control. It probably would have been way better if I had done all of the markings while it was flat. That would have been better. Oh, look at us. We're learning so many things. But it was hard to see exactly how it would turn out. So that brings me to the last thing I did, which was I added a patina to my guy by putting it in egg. This is just boiled egg mushed up, and I left it in there overnight, and I'm excited to see how the patina turned out. It looks quite dark in there, so let's open this up and see. I should have put it on top of something. Oh man. I had shoved some egg in there and then I was like, oh no, I probably don't want to do that. I don't know. So there are little spaces in there that still have egg on it that need to be cleaned out. And then when you turn it, that's where it was sitting on the egg. I don't know. It's probably in the crevices on the outside all right. Maybe I should boil some more eggs this morning and put it in egg throughout the day. I'm also planning on going to a hot spring today, so maybe it would be a good idea to bring it to the hot spring and see if I can get it to patina in the water there. Another thing that I did off camera was I put the tooth in its little tooth case. So that just kind of needs to be polished up because I also used super glue. It wiggled just a little bit in there, but it was mostly, I think, clamped down in there. So I think it's pretty secure and it looks pretty cool. Let me see. I'm gonna polish it up just a little bit and see how I like the outside. Probably not too much. Oh. Okay, let's do it. Here I'm just using some very fine grit, wet dry sandpaper, and as you can see, it's a mess.
It's a mess. Yeah. Yeah. You can still see all of the extra marks that I made because when I used my dapping block, I didn't use a protective cloth to help keep it from marring the metal and now I have all of those extra scratches all over it. What I did on purpose isn't great either, and it just looks a mess. It looks like the bird must be dead because no bird would keep their feathers this way. What am I going to do? That's the question. What am I going to do? That's really frustrating because this is a big hunk of silver. Yeah, I think I may just have to scratch it.
And so I started all over again. I used that new and improved paper template that I showed you at the beginning of this segment. And after cutting that out, I decided to experiment with mark making on that metal so that I could add the wings and all the texture. I started out trying to scratch into the surface by hand and then maybe hammer into it just a little bit with the Dremel bit that I had used before.
Here we go. It's day 5, I think. Here's what I had made. The wings are a hot mess. The top is a hot mess. I just put the tooth on really quick. It's not the way that I would do it if I had planned on keeping the tooth on this piece. I would have done it a little differently. I did end up taking it to that hot springs. That particular hot springs was not super rich in sulfur, definitely maintained by humans. Therefore, I think the sulfur content is brought down. Anyway, so it did not change the color of my metal at all, but it was an interesting experiment. In any case, this is this particular thing that I am scrapping. I've begun this one, and I decided to go ahead and purchase some new Dremel bits. So I was looking at these bits at the hardware store, and I had not planned to buy a full pack of bits like this, but the engraving bits that were available that I was looking at, I was like, those are probably too big, and that would be this one. I was like, that tip is probably too big for what I want to do. And those ones came in packs of, and it was about $8, $9 for a pack of 2 of those. And this whole kit was about $10. And it included much smaller ones that didn't come in smaller packs. I don't understand Dremel's pricing, honestly. Like a little pack with just a couple little guys like this would be nice. I don't know what I will do with all the rest of these things. Hopefully I find a purpose for them in the future because I don't like buying things that I don't intend to use. But yeah, now I have a couple very small little engraving bits. After I get it all engraved, I'm gonna go in and shape it. To use a little strip of, I have some faux leather. I've also got some real leather, but I'm thinking I'm gonna try and use the faux leather first because I have other ideas that I wanna use the real leather for. I got the faux leather and the real leather all from old couches that were left on the side of the road because I'm a trash panda. Now we are up to speed. Let's get to work.
Since I already had to restart this project once, I didn't want to just go right ahead and start engraving onto my silver. So I had some brass that's just hobby brass, I guess. Anyways, I decided to go ahead and do a quick little practice on that before going in on my actual silver piece. And as you can see, I used some tape to hold it in place while I got to work, and so I could use both hands to steady myself and get some good marks in. I also learned my lesson from the beginning of this video and decided to look up my reference photo real quick before I went ahead and completed all of the marks on my wings so that they could look nice. Yay for learning from our mistakes! And so with the engraving done, I was ready to move on to the shaping phase. And as you can see, I learned from my mistakes here too, and also used some leather. The thing I did not learn was how to frame this well so that you could see what I was doing clearly. My hand is in the way in most of these shots, and I must again apologize for that.
Oh, I think I just broke my chair. Oh yeah, it's tearing. Yeah, little tear. Not great. What am I gonna sit on? I'll just keep sitting on this for now. I'll change it out before I continue. My battery's running low anyways. I attempted off camera to solder the little wire onto the beak so that I can attach the tooth. It didn't work so well. I don't know, like maybe the silver is coated in a little something, because whenever the first time I hit it with some heat, it turns all black. I think that whatever it was wouldn't let the solder really stick very well. So I went ahead and put it in the pickle pot, and we're gonna try again. Now the silver is all clean again. It looks like the solder melted and the solder actually stuck to it, but it didn't stick to the wire, which probably also I didn't have my wire properly placed on there. It's so hard to get everything lined up just right.
And so once again, I had to try and solder this thing together, which was such a pain, just as much as the first time. It was such a pain to just get it soldered to the wire, but I was able to get it done. And actually, I think I did it a little faster than I did the first time. I think this whole second time worked out a lot faster than the first time because of how much I had learned. But yeah, with that done, all of the pieces were more or less ready to be put together. They just needed to be beautified and all of the finishing touches needed to be put on. So I prepared my patina and I set my bird in there overnight inside a little plastic cup, the kind that comes with medication. But once again, while I was waiting for the main body of the piece, I went ahead and got to work on the bezel, which needed to be polished, particularly because when I used the super glue, a lot more came out than I had intended and it got all over the piece.
This is almost certainly the final day that I'm going to be working on this project. I'm super, super excited. I did already peek and pull this out this morning, but here it comes. Here's my little guy. Let me show him off to you. So we've got a nice dark patina on the inside and also on the outside. I did notice, because like I said, I pulled him out earlier, that like the patina kind of rubs off on my fingers. I'm not sure if you can tell that that's rubbing off, but it's not super sturdy. So I think I'm going to need to cover it with some kind of a lacquer or something, but that should help to bring out all of the feather designs. So all I need to do is polish him up and use that lacquer stuff, and then he'll be ready for the reveal. So yeah, there's not much to do. Oh, and also put the tooth on, but I think I should polish, lacquer, tooth, and then reveal. So let's get working. Where is my super fine sandpaper? I'm also really proud of myself because I already started cleaning everything up last night. So my space is, while not 100% tidy, definitely not as bad as it would otherwise have been at this point. I do need to remember, last time I did this, the egg was sitting in my studio for like 3 days and it was disgusting. Ooh, lovely. That's already so pretty. Okay, I have to show you close-ups now. This is a 1500 grit sandpaper. Makes it nice and shiny. I'm so excited. Now for the varnish, I'm kind of experimenting here because I don't have anything that's designed specifically for this purpose. What I have is this varnish that's designed for oil paintings. So I'm gonna try using that and we'll see how it works out. It's experimental, so. We've made it to the end of the video. Woohoo! Look at my new jewelry. I am exceptionally happy with how this turned out. I felt really silly starting over again after that first attempt, but now I'm really glad that I did because this is so much better than that first attempt. I don't think it's wasted. Eventually, someday, I'll be able to melt it down and make something with it. But starting over was definitely the right choice. I absolutely am amazed with how well this turned out. It's not as good, obviously, as my reference pictures that clearly somebody with some experience had made, but considering how little experience I have with metalworking, I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's so fun to have incredible, unique jewelry that's absolutely just my own. And obviously, I didn't design this whole concept, but I did put a personal spin on it by adding the little tooth in the middle. And I love it even more because of the little tooth that's in there. That's my son's tooth. And I have more teeth with which to make jewelry, and I'm excited to continue and do that. Since this is critique time, I'm going to address this side of the wing has a lot more definition than this side of the wing. I didn't do as good of a job etching / carving into the metal on this side, so that could have been improved. I think another thing that I would have preferred potentially is if instead of making a little hole so that it could spin around while you're wearing it, just adding a loop and soldering that on might have been a better move. I'm just so happy with how it turned out though. I don't know what else to say, so I guess I'll go ahead and say thank you so much for watching to the end of that video. If you liked anything about that video, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you would like to see more of what I do, go ahead and subscribe, and if you would like also to find other ways to support my channel, go ahead and drop a comment down below. If you're not sure what to comment, just throw a little bird emoji down there so I know you made it to the end of the video and that you loved it. You loved it. Maybe you liked it. Maybe it was okay. Maybe it was tolerable. It helped you pass some miserable minutes upon this planet. I don't know. Hit me with that bird emoji. And whatever you end up doing, I hope I can see you in the next video, but if not, well wishes all around. Bye! I don't know, I'm just always talking out my butthole like a proper lady. I probably shouldn't do that. The best weight that I have on here, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy, actually. Hear me are. I have some brass. This is a lot thinner. I love that smell. Not smell, sound. I cannot hear sound or smell sound. I have no synesthesia, but just fun sounds. If you're curious about this pin, I made that while I was in college over 10 years ago, and that was probably the favorite thing that I had made